They thought I was just a naive, desperate woman. Just a barren wife. A pathetic golden goose ready to be slaughtered and discarded without a second thought. But as I stand outside my quiet, sunlit flower shop, arranging a bucket of fresh daisies, and watch my ex-husband shuffling across the street in a faded rideshare t-shirt, I realize a profoundly deep truth. True justice is never a sudden explosion of rage. It is not a screaming match in the middle of a crowded room. It is terrifyingly silent. It is a calculated, creeping shadow, patiently waiting for the most perfect moment to completely devour the greedy. It all started to unravel on an unusually gloomy morning. Dark, bruised clouds gathered over the city, promising a heavy, relentless downpour. The air was thick, suffocating, as if weighing down the very feet of pedestrians. My mother-in-law, Carol, had been awake since the crack of dawn. The incessant shuffling of her slippers back and forth, punctuated by her booming voice echoing up the stairs, made my head pound. She was desperately urging me to hurry up and get dressed for the bank, terrified we would get stuck in a long line. I dragged myself downstairs, my body aching from staying up late balancing the complex books for our custom furniture business, only to see Carol clutching a dark blue canvas duffel bag tightly to her chest. Her hands were clenched around the heavy straps as if she fiercely feared someone would snatch it away. Inside that worn bag was our entire future. $1 million in hard cash, bundled tightly in crisp paper bands. It was the blood, sweat, and absolute tears my husband, Ethan, and I had poured into our grueling business over the past 5 years. It even included the $3,000 my parents had generously given me as a wedding gift, money I had never dared to touch. Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table, already dressed in a sharp suit. He abruptly stood up, grabbing his keys, telling us to be careful because he had an early meeting with a supplier. His eyes nervously flickered away from mine for just a fraction of a second, but I blindly assumed he was simply stressed about work. I had absolutely no idea he was sending me straight into a meticulously planned trap. During the entire Uber ride to Liberty Trust Bank, Carol never once loosened her tight, greedy grip on that bag. Every few minutes she would pat the outside, feeling the thick stacks of cash, her lips moving silently as she calculated interest rates. She turned to me, her voice dripping with a sickly sweet tone that sent a violent shiver down my spine. She suggested we put the massive deposit entirely in her name to get preferential senior interest rates. A vague sense of profound unease crept over me. Most of this money was from my own hard work. When I gently declined, suggesting it stay in our name so we could withdraw capital quickly for the business, her friendly demeanor vanished instantly. She viciously snapped at me, accusing me of thinking she was going to steal my money. Inside the freezing air-conditioned bank, she confidently slammed the heavy duffel bag onto the counter of teller window number 3. I was about to protest, but she had already slapped her driver's license down, shooting me a look that was both a challenge and a command. The teller, a sharp-featured woman named Grace, looked up. Our eyes met, and there was something in her gaze, part scrutiny, part deep sympathy. As the whirring sound of the money-counting machine sliced through the tense silence, Carol suddenly clutched her stomach, dramatically groaning about severe cramps from a greasy breakfast. She scurried away to the restrooms, leaving me standing awkwardly with our entire life savings. The exact moment Carol disappeared from view, the machine abruptly stopped. Grace quickly scanned the empty lobby to ensure no one was watching. With lightning speed, she pulled a small, folded piece of paper from under a stack of documents and slid it through the glass slot right into my trembling hand. Her voice was a desperate, urgent whisper. "Don't ask questions. Take this and go now. Run." My heart hammered violently against my ribs. An icy chill shot straight up my spine as I unfolded the note. Two stark, terrifying words hit me like a physical blow. "Run. This account is flagged." Below it was a phone number. My intuition screamed that I was caught in a horrifying scheme, and if I didn't get out of there immediately, I would lose absolutely everything. When I heard the shuffling of Carol's shoes returning from the hallway, my raw survival instinct completely took over. I doubled over, clutching my own stomach, letting out a theatrical, agonizing cry about my appendix bursting. I screamed that I needed to rush to the emergency room immediately. Carol looked at me with sheer annoyance, clicking her tongue and demanding I just sit and wait until she signed the final papers. The word "sign" sent a wave of absolute panic over me. I swatted her grasping hand away, grabbed my purse, bolted for the heavy glass doors like a startled deer, and jumped into a waiting taxi. I didn't dare go to my own house where Ethan was waiting. I didn't dare go to a hospital. I fled to the only safe sanctuary I could think of, my parents' modest home. My hands were slick with cold sweat as I dialed the number from the crumpled note. Grace answered from a secure supply closet, her voice laced with heavy worry. She revealed a truth that completely shattered my reality. Carol had come in the day before to set up an automatic, pre-authorized wire transfer. The absolute second that $1 million hit her new savings account, the entire system would instantly sweep it into an account under a completely foreign name. Vanessa Dubois. My ears rang loudly. The room spun out of control. I had never heard of Vanessa Dubois, but the chilling finality of the trap was undeniable. My husband and his mother had masterfully conspired to strip me of everything I owned. Less than half an hour later, the roar of a motorcycle engine shattered the quiet street. Ethan and Carol stormed into my parents' yard. Carol screeching and accusing me of trying to run off with the money. My frail father, a retired school teacher, stood up with absolute, unwavering authority, threatening to call the police if they didn't stop causing a disturbance. I shrank behind my trembling mother, looking at the man I had shared a bed with for 5 years. Suddenly, he was a terrifying stranger. I decided to test Grace's warning. I weakly lied, saying I had already signed the deposit slip and transferred the money directly into Carol's account right before I left the bank. For a split second, the room fell dead silent. Then a dramatic shift occurred. Their angry scowls melted away into an unmistakable, sickening flash of greedy triumph. Ethan frantically snatched his mother's phone, his thumb swiping furiously across the screen to check the banking app. When he saw the account was completely empty, his smirk vanished instantly. He whipped his head around, his eyes blazing with sheer, unfiltered rage, looking as if he wanted to devour me whole. They left screaming threats, completely exposing their true monstrous colors. That night, I slipped out the back door into the damp, mysterious darkness to meet Grace at a dimly lit coffee shop. She showed me a redacted screenshot from her work computer. Carol had come to the bank with a young, heavily pregnant woman. They were laughing, rubbing her belly, cooing about a grandson, setting up the transfer to fund this Vanessa. Grace gently warned me to urgently check my other assets, suggesting this Vanessa woman was the head accountant at Ethan's company. Her warning was like a bucket of freezing ice water to my face. The very next morning, my cousin Mark, a skilled real estate paralegal, called me with devastating news. The beautiful condo Ethan and I owned, and the 10-acre plot of land upstate. They were both legally transferred into Carol's name 3 months ago. I collapsed onto my childhood bed, tears of immense self-loathing streaming down my face. I remembered Ethan coming home exhausted, handing me a massive stack of complex business loan documents. I had blindly trusted him, signing my name on every single line he marked with a pencil without reading a single page. Hidden deep within that mountain of paperwork was a quitclaim deed. I had voluntarily signed away my entire life. They had been fattening me up like a pig for slaughter. But the crushing pain quickly morphed into a cold, hardened resolve. I wiped my tears. I packed my bag and returned directly to the lion's den. I walked into the house, playing the incredibly naive, submissive wife to buy time. Ethan greeted me with a sickeningly sweet bowl of chicken soup, acting deeply concerned, gently rubbing my shoulders while eagerly asking where the cash was. I lied again. I told him I deposited it into my personal account, but accidentally locked the card by entering the wrong PIN 3 times in a panic. His mask cracked, revealing sheer frustration, but he stomped upstairs, desperate to keep the charade going. While he was sleeping in a drunken stupor that night, I crept into the freezing garage and searched his car. Hidden beneath the center console armrest lining, I found a small, untraceable black burner phone. The messages inside were like poison needles stabbing directly into my heart. They were from V3. Honey, did you get the $1 million from that old hag yet? The baby's kicking like crazy. As soon as we have the money, we file for divorce and get her out of the house for good. Ethan wasn't just having a meaningless affair. He was building an entirely new family, the precious grandson his family so desperately wanted, funded entirely by my blood and sweat. I bought a professional-grade, microscopic listening device and planted it securely under the living room coffee table. I sat in a quiet cafe down the street, listening through my earbuds as Carol and my sister-in-law, Jessica, ruthlessly mocked me. "That girl is an absolute idiot," Carol snarled. "She worships the ground Ethan walks on. Once she gives us the million, I will throw her out on the street. She will leave with absolutely nothing. Serves her right for being barren." Every cruel word was a knife twisting violently in my gut, but the profound pain kept my mind razor-sharp. To keep them perfectly distracted while my brilliant lawyer, Leo, finalized the lawsuit and filed for an emergency asset freeze, I dangled a piece of poison-laced candy. I handed Carol a completely fake, canceled bank passbook showing a balance of exactly $1 million. Her eyes lit up like high beams. She clutched the worthless blue book to her chest like a sacred relic, grinning from ear to ear, praising me as a sensible daughter-in-law. Believing they had finally won, they dropped their guard entirely. They even boldly invited Vanessa into my home. Vanessa leaned against my kitchen refrigerator, sipping orange juice, openly mocking my infertility, boasting about how she and Ethan laughed at me in my own bed. "You were just the golden goose. We have the eggs. Now it's time to cook the goose," she hissed venomously. I secretly recorded every single word. The grand finale was Carol's extravagant 70th birthday party, a massive event held in an enormous marquee tent in our backyard. Ethan ordered me to wear a hideous frumpy purple polyester dress from a decade ago and stay strictly hidden in the sweltering kitchen with the catering staff. He didn't want me embarrassing him in front of his wealthy guests while he officially introduced his pregnant savior. As the MC's voice boomed over the speakers, calling the family to the brightly lit stage, I ripped off my stained apron. Ethan took the microphone, his face flushed with expensive wine and pure arrogance. He introduced Vanessa to the cheering crowd as his guardian angel, the woman who saved his struggling business, and proudly announced the priceless gift of their unborn child. Carol took the mic next, weeping fake tears of joy, loudly proclaiming that heaven had finally smiled upon her after dealing with a barren daughter-in-law for so many agonizing years. I stepped out of the shadows, gripping the remote control for the massive LED screens I had secretly rented, and walked purposefully toward the stage. My disheveled appearance brought the entire party to a dead stunning halt. Ethan roared for security to get me off the stage, but my loyal cousins formed an impenetrable human wall around me. I snatched the microphone from the stunned MC. "Good evening, everyone," I announced, my voice ringing out sharp and clear as crystal. "I too have a very special birthday gift I'd like to share with the whole family." I pressed the button. The giant screen flickered, playing the crystal-clear video and audio shot from under their living room coffee table. "That girl is an idiot. Once she gives us the million, I'll throw her out. The assets are all in my name." Carol's voice snarled over the massive speakers. "We need to get rid of that barren cow." Ethan's voice echoed. A collective horrified gasp rippled through the hundreds of guests. The party went dead silent. Carol's face turned completely ashen. But I wasn't finished. I clicked the remote again. Highly detailed bank statements filled the screen. "This is the glorious savior my husband spoke of," I shouted. "A savior who received a $200,000 wire transfer for a condo down payment, while I was forced to sell my precious wedding jewelry to keep our business afloat." I clicked again. The DNA test results flashed in bright red, proving Ethan was the father, right next to the vile text messages from his hidden burner phone. "No point in feeding a hen that can't lay eggs." I read aloud, my voice trembling with righteous fury. "You call me barren," I cried, tears streaming down my face. "But did you ever care that I suffered 2 devastating miscarriages from the sheer exhaustion of trying to build this family? And your response was to find a new womb and humiliate me under my own roof." The shock was too much. Carol clutched her chest, her eyes rolling back into her head, and she collapsed violently onto the hard wooden stage. This time it wasn't a pathetic act. It was a massive catastrophic stroke. The party devolved into absolute chaos. Guests screamed, throwing shattered plates and beer cans at Ethan's feet, shouting "Thieves! Scum!" Vanessa shrieked in pure terror. Just then, the wailing of police sirens drowned out the music. My lawyer, Leo, strode into the tent, flanked by grim-faced police officers. He held up a thick court document with a glowing official seal. We have an emergency injunction freezing all assets, bank accounts, and real estate registered to Carol and Ethan Miller. He announced with booming authority. Ethan's legs gave out completely. He stammered that they couldn't do this. But the police aggressively escorted him away, his hands cuffed tightly behind his back in a final, humiliating end to his reign of deceit. Vanessa tried to sneak out the back, but my aunts cornered her. She fell to her knees, sobbing and begging for mercy in the dirt, claiming Ethan seduced her. I looked down at her terrified face with absolute freezing detachment. You had no mercy when you were plotting to take everything from me, I whispered coldly. The baby is innocent, but having a mother like you is its greatest misfortune. 3 days later, Ethan was released on bail. He stood in the pouring rain outside my parents' house, falling to his knees in the mud, begging for forgiveness, crying that his mother was paralyzed and he had lost everything. I stood under an umbrella, looking at a pathetic, broken stranger. The divorce papers are filed. Our assets will be divided by the court. We are strangers now. Never come here again, I said, turning my back on him forever. A year has passed since that gray, miserable day in court. I sit in my beautiful sunlit flower shop, Serenity blooms, surrounded by the sweet fragrance of fresh roses. I won 70% of all our assets in the brutal divorce because of his egregious marital fault. Ethan's company went bankrupt, and he now drives for Uber just to make ends meet. Vanessa, seeing no future with a broke loser, abandoned the baby with the Millers and ran off with a wealthy new man. And Carol, completely paralyzed and incontinent, is trapped in a tiny, squalid apartment, forced to listen to the endless cries of the precious grandson she ruined everything for, and the drunken curses of the son she destroyed. I look out the bright window and see Ethan standing across the street in the shadows, looking haggard and broken. He takes a half step forward, but a massive wall of shame holds him back. I don't feel hatred or triumph anymore. I just feel a strange, calm detachment, because true power isn't about destroying others. It is about meticulously taking back exactly what belongs to you, and finding your own peace while their blinding greed buries them alive. Disclaimer: this video is created for the sole purpose of entertainment. All situations, characters, and stories in this video are fictional and are built entirely using artificial intelligence technology. We hope you have a relaxing time.